today, let's focus on the Outlaws. People had been moving out west for a long time before the game's setting in 1899, but most were just passing through to places like California. Many did not choose to stay in the interior. But three things happened. Homestead Act of 1862. The federal government would give 160 acres of public land, that's 160 football fields in American terms, if you agreed to live on it and improve it for 5 years. Practically free land that you can call your own was a big draw for people who wanted to start over and settle out west. 2. The American Civil War ended in 1865, allowing the country to refocus its attention on spreading west. More people took advantage of the Homestead Act, and freed slaves also moved out west to start a new life. 3. The advent of the Transcontinental Railway, completed in 1869. Other rails sprouted to connect with it, and if your town wasn't nearby the rail line itself, people often left to towns that were. That's what the town of Tumbleweed was in Red Dead Redemption, basically a ghost town. But with the rails and people starting to fill out the West, people, towns, and businesses saw their wealth being transported back and forth from the east to west and vice versa. This is where the Outlaws come in. We know that Dutch had a vision of anti-authority and inspired many by it. But Dutch's gang will not be the only group in RDR2. The latest trailer confirms that other gangs will be present. Since choice is said to be more prevalent this time around, I can only speculate, but hopefully we either get to try to work with another gang to pull off a really big heist, or perhaps have to fight another gang who's trying to take the riches we just stole. There are always outlaws in the West, but we don't really see a huge rise in outlaw gangs until after the Civil War. Many of these people were seeking adventure, easy money,
Wong's gang's been growing fast.
Outlawing's easy money for easy work.
and sometimes even revenge, as quite a few of them were Southerners who had lost everything in the Civil War. The Cowboys, the James Younger Gang, the Wild Bunch, and others are only some of the famous gangs of the late 1800s and early 1900s. They robbed banks, trains, and stagecoaches, and many of them died in a hail of bullets. Arthur Morgan and John Marston are both part of Vanderlyn's gang. There is a notion that they are based on Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch, but knowing the richness of a Rockstar game, it's probably going to mix in a few other gangs from the West as well. So which gangs may have influenced some of the aspects? Dalton family consisted of 5 brothers, 4 of them becoming lawmen, and 1 a state legislator. But the eldest was killed trying to capture a fugitive, and the others got angry for not being paid money owed to them by the government, thus turning to a life of crime, and they recruited a few others. Now in Red Dead, the most notable thing about the story we know in 1899 is the massacre at Blackwater, which sets the gang on the run from the law. There's a little mystery surrounding what exactly happened, but I'm guessing it was a failed robbery. Although many Western gangs were formidable, they often broke apart after a major failed robbery attempt. The Daltons were a prime example. The gang, after gaining notoriety, was being hunted down by lawmen. To get money to leave the territory, and for bravado, the gang wanted to outdo the James Younger gang by robbing 2 banks at the same time in Coffeyville, Kansas, in broad daylight. Needless to say, once some of them were recognized by the townsfolk, the town all got their guns and shot at them as they came out. Out of the possibly 6 members who participated, 4 were shot dead, 1 escaped, and another, astonishingly, was wounded 23 times but lived. That was Emmett Dalton, one of the few outlaws to live to old age. This also being the Old West, the dead were photographed, and the town celebrated the killing of the lawless. Historical side note, the James Younger gang, the Youngers actually being cousins of the Daltons, had practically the same experience in Northfield, Minnesota. 2 were killed and everyone else was wounded. And afterward, the townsfolk hunted them down, killing another and capturing part of the group. So Arthur, Dutch, and John might find themselves in similar circumstances in the game. Outlaws in the West could be educated and not, come from a decent family background to ones that were pretty deplorable. Many were violent, and at least if they were not violent themselves, had other members in the gang who would do their bidding for them. We all saw the Wild Bunch theory given by Matt Drenelin and others, Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch, which was actually different from the original Wild Bunch, but since he was in the original one, he kind of took the name after they disbanded, claimed it took every instance not to kill anyone, but some members always did. Very much like what we saw in the third trailer with Dutch saying he does not want to kill any people on the train, but they will if they have to. And after a huge train robbery, making off with thousands, their fame grew, which put them in the sights of the Pinkertons and other bounty hunters. On the run, the gang split up, with all eventually being arrested or getting shot by lawmen. Of course, famously, Sundance and Butch were killed in Bolivia by government soldiers. Outlaw life was a hard one. It lasted usually just for a few years, and if you survived long enough, you might become part of several gangs, as they split and reformed again and again. We're definitely going to feel that in the game. And hopefully, maybe like the Daltons, if in multiplayer, if we get to rob banks, hopefully some of the best will be recorded, so that other players would try to outdo each other. Or if a whole town might try to turn on you, and you have to fight your way out. This is what happened to John in 1906 with the robbery he spoke of, when he was shot and left for dead. Most likely the game will end there, like most Outlaws, shot, bleeding, with a failed robbery in the air. Either way, let me know what type of outlaw you will be. The hitman, the educated, idealist, the lost soul, there are tons of choices. And if you like this video, please click the like button and leave a comment below, and please consider subscribing for more. This is Eric, the Lone Pine Wolfman, signing out. Tune in next time for my video on Lawmen of the West. Never stop learning, gamers.